You're listening to Drinking at Moe's. This is Nick Papa Giorgio. Drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin' at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go.
Everybody, welcome Drinkin' Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Because YouTube's algorithm is a pain in the ass. Yeah, I'm getting over something right now. But leave a review on the audio platforms too. Today, I'm excited to have with me. I've had one referee from H2O on. Now, I got somebody that's not only a referee, but in the H2O Hall of Fame. Papa G, how you doing?
What's going on, Mo? How are you, bud?
Oh, besides, sounding like I'm feeling like ass right now, I'm fine. It sounds like, when it came to Hustle Cup, I was literally curled up on my couch underneath a blanket watching, and y'all sure had your hands full.
Oh yeah, that was a long night actually. That was the scary thing. That was actually the shorter of the two shows as far as the H2O shows for Mania Week goes. On a Monday, Monday was actually the longer show. We went about 3.5 hours almost.
I was gonna say that one seemed like it went pretty long too. I know.
Yeah.
I think it was Hustle Cup. I was hearing some stuff on Twitter about Fire Stick was having some issues.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know the app was having issues with IWTV if you view it that way. Usually, even the IWTV guys will actually say it's like, oh yeah, our app's awful. I'm like, go watch it on a browser, or if you're doing it on Xbox, PS5, whatever, what have you on there. Yeah, always view it on a browser. They even tell us that.
Yeah. Although I give the IWTV guys this, that anytime I've seen an issue come up and they're made aware of it, they're on it pretty damn quick.
Yeah, there's another guy backstage usually at wherever they're filming. Usually just does that by itself. Like if there's any kind of audio issues or anything like that, there's a guy right there besides the other producer that does the floor cam, hard cam stuff on there. So
yeah,
which is always
now
good.
Before we get into too much of the H2O stuff, the first thing I like to start off with each guest with before my dog tries to knock my stand down. What got you started as a fan, and then what got you making the leap into the business, refereeing and all that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I started both of my grandpas actually were always big wrestling fans back in the back in the 70s and 80s on there. Like, and I'm an 80s kid, so I'm like I grew up late 80s, early 90s. So it was when I started watching wrestling, like 87, 88. So what are you going back around
the same time as me? Not to
interrupt. Yeah, exactly. So that's perfect. So we're in the same boat there on that one. So we're talking about what, WrestleMania 3, 4, 5, give or take, somewhere around there. And then on there, I just stuck with it ever since. Early 90s and stuff like that. Surprisingly, my first actual live show I actually went to wasn't until King of Ring 95 at the old Philly Spectrum, which is obviously now demolished. on there. But that's where WWE was always at. Beforehand, obviously WCW had the Civic Center, which we had kind of like the B arena, so to speak. Yeah. But they would pack the hell out of that, too. On top of that, so that was me as a fan. I'm like, ever since I'm like, and then kind of, getting into wrestling. I'm like, ever since we went to a couple ECW arena shows. Of course, I live in grew up in Philly. I'm like, I live in South Jersey now. Not that far from the H2O arena, and stuff like that. So that's kind of, I'm still in the Philly area at least. So, so we go to ECW every now and then, on there when they were touring to, a lot around like 98, 99. It's similar to what like GCW does. I'm like, they're tour around the country, but they come back to Atlantic City, and that's their big stuff.
They're big.
Exactly. I'm like right now, I'm like they're doing a collective, in Philly right now too. On top of that, so it's actual ongoing as we speak. But after that, I'm like, kind of, ECW folded. So we're kind of, we needed our, wrestling fix somewhere. So I'm like, I got a hold of CCW, which is on the infamous Channel 48 in Philly, which it's very, very famous for showing any type of wrestling. It was like NWA Wildside. It was USWA. I'm like old WCCW shows and stuff like that. They went like hardcore, with it too. On top of that, so we started going to CCW. I think around 2002. Our first show was Cage of Death 4. It was Zandaga Lobo on there too. So that was the first time we went there, and then we got hooked ever since. We became almost like regulars then, getting, month in and month out, because they were there every month then, kind of filling the void. Philly didn't have any kind of wrestling, as far as like, an indie level really, at the arena and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got hooked on that side of things.
Oh yeah. When ECW folded, Philadelphia had that little bit of a void. And I remember some of those Cage of Death shows.
Oh yeah,
were some of what got me to being as big of a fan of deathmatch wrestling as I am.
Yeah,
because I see this, and like especially now with I get a pretty big chuckle out of it with either my wife or my mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. Like if I happen to be watching and the death match is on, the reactions on their faces.
That's the best part. It's the old shock and awe routine right there. Like, it's breaking the code right there, breaking like the ceiling. I'm like, oh, look at this. I'm like, oh, you just see it. Someone gets smashed with like light tubes over their head. I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, oh, they gotta be fake. I'm like, no, they're real glass.
Oh yeah. And I know one time in particular, my mother-in-law was like, isn't that illegal? I'm like, just you got your iPad, just sit down.
They tried that back in early 2000 in Jersey, actually. On there, they were trying to outlaw. It was I think it was like 2000, 2001 or something like that. It was actually Christy Whitman was the governor of New Jersey at the time, and she was actually trying to outlaw, extreme wrestling, as it was kind of falling under and stuff like that. So, CCW was kind of like, where do we go? And that's kind of like where they would go to Delaware, because at that time in Delaware didn't have an athletic commission or anything like that. It's a little different nowadays, because they haven't. I think they actually have an athletic commission, but you need to sign like so many permits, and stuff like that. You got to have, an ambulance on site if you're doing any kind of, show like that. It's a mess nowadays on there. So,
although with one show in particular, I remember that they do over there, those Tournament of Deaths.
Oh yeah,
with Nick Gage basically having died there.
Yeah, you can actually say that he did die for about, I think, 7 minutes. Yeah, he was legitimately dead. They brought him back.
Yeah, they fortunately brought him back, and it was one of those things where it's like, the freaking ambulance would have been needed in that situation.
Oh
I
yeah,
think what they flew him out in a helicopter, wasn't it?
yeah. He had to get helivac. He got to get a helivac out there because apparently allegedly the ambulance couldn't find the property or anything like that because it was on farmland.
Oh
That's
yeah,
where CCW was. Doing that tournament of death. It was actually DJ Hyde's parents' house on there.
I remember
That
that. Yeah,
yeah, that's where TOD was always at, and I think it still is. If they even still do it, I have no idea if they even still do it or not. I
you
don't
know
follow.
what? I
I
think
don't follow and or work for them anymore. So
yeah, I tried getting some people through them, but that kind of fell through. And I think at the time they were trying to, I don't know why, but kind of distance themselves from the deathmatch stuff. But
yeah,
now we seem to be bringing it back. So
yeah,
it's like, okay, you know what got you to the dance. So,
yep, exactly. I mean, it's kind of almost like they're using like C rosters or something like that. It's not really. It's a lot of just like up and comers basically. With a mix of some veterans that I've seen. Stuff like that. They're actually running this show. I think at the old Murphy Rec Center in Philly, where Ring of Honor started. I think on WrestleMania Sunday
yeah.
on there. So I saw that. I'm like, oh, good for them at least. Something at least for them. But it's
Oh, yeah. No,
their niche is deathmatch wrestling. So
oh, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having a niche. And
no,
there's
not by
nothing
any
wrong
means.
with trying to, you know, expand it somewhat, but to kind of just disavow one
Yeah,
whole part of it for a while is kind of like, okay, you're just shoving that segment of your fans, which at the time was the vast majority of them,
yep.
off to the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're alienating your fan base, and you alienate the deathmatch community and stuff like that. I'm like, they won't come back and support you then. In that aspect.
Yeah.
You you know,
And
they're, they're it's insane. I'm like, you see it with ICW. You see it with we see it with us. I'm like, we're not really just a deathmatch company. I'm like, we're more hardcore base. Anything like that. But you see it in GCW. I'm like, you got your loyals, and stuff like that too. So
most definitely. And, I've been kind of lucky to, I guess, somewhat get a little bit of a following in the deathmatch community,
mhm.
which, starting off, I was kind of like, holy crap, that's actually catching on. But then after having some of the people I've had on from
Mhm.
like, I think the one of the first deathmatch guys I had on was actually Alex Cologne.
Oh wow, there you go. Starting way at the top there.
That's what I was saying. Like it was one of those very early on ones that I'm like, still, and hell, I'm still in this mode where
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of people out there where I'm like, this might be a long shot, but let's see if it sticks.
Yeah, who knows? You never
Hell,
know, and always take that shot, and that's what we do in the business. But you got to take a shot every now and then on yourself. So
oh yeah, hell, that's what getting some of the first big names that I've had on was all about. Because while I'm all about if the chance comes up, having somebody on that's local to me, I'll
mhm.
never pass that up.
No, of course.
But I knew when I started off that I'm like, man, sooner or later I'm going to run out of people, and this is going to end a lot quicker than I wanted it to. And then I think it was the SATs.
Oh,
They
okay.
ended up
Oh,
they
nice.
ended up liking a tweet of mine on, I forget who it was at the time, but it was right around the time of those matches they had with the Hardys and the Briscoes.
Oh,
And I'm
okay. Yeah,
like,
their own stuff. Yeah.
that was one of those where I was definitely like, this might be a long shot, but yeah.
Yeah.
And
Who
then
knows?
boom. And then speaking of Ring of Honor, Kerry Silkin had him on like shortly after the news broke out about the
But
whole sale to Tony.
oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Because I forgot. I honestly forgot about that.
And then, oh God, some of the deathmatch guys. Oh, I had Jake Christ on shortly after the video came out of him burning the IWA Mid South belt.
Oh yes, Jake's good people.
Oh yeah,
Jake's good people.
him and Bobby, both great people. I got nothing but great things to say about either one.
Never met Bobby. I'm like, I've been around Jake enough, when he was doing the run in the CCW and stuff like that. So, I was around him for a long time. So,
Yeah, I've got to meet them both a handful of times at Sammy Callahan's promotion Revolver because
Revolver, okay,
they do periodic stops at Des Moines, which is like
okay.
maybe 2.5 hours from me.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Not bad at all. And then I think my first ever legit death match that I got to see was actually him versus Joel Bateman there.
Oh, nice. Jesus.
That was wild.
Yeah. Joel's a nutcase on there. I'm like, I'll tell you that. I'm like,
I got a picture with him after the match, his face still all bloody.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you don't care.
Oh yeah. And I've had people deathmatch on from I've had Madman Pondo.
Okay.
I've had Neil Diamond Cutter.
Yep.
I've lost count of how many people from H2O I've had on.
Well, it's all top. It's all top tier talent right there as far as the death matches go. Can't go wrong with that.
Well, I got one more that I hadn't mentioned that it took me damn near a year to get it done, although no fault of his or mine. It was just some crazy shit was happening during that time. But John Wayne Murdoch.
Oh, wow. Oh, jeez.
Took me damn near a year, but we finally got it done.
Nice. That's top tier talent right there, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. Now, speaking of, top tier stuff, because, obviously in the wrestling business, people focus a lot on the wrestlers, that the two or more people competing in that ring for that match. Not a lot of times people, well, actually, let me flip that. A lot of times people don't always think of the referees in the match because they're playing that important of a role too. Because sometimes they're, little cues like, hey, we need to hurry this up, or we need to go into this. What is your views on the importance of a good referee in a match? Because I can give some examples of some bad ones.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm like, it's kind of almost nowadays too, it's kind of a lost art, finding actual good referee, because you'll see, on the indie levels, you'll just see it's like, Joe Blow promoter, I'm like, needs a referee. And I'm like, it was like, oh, I got my cousin back here, or I got my brother. I'm like, I'm gonna just throw a referee shirt on him. Hey, go out there and ref. There's an art to what we do too, on top of that, besides with what the guys and girls in the ring do. It's like you gotta keep them safe completely. That's basically what our one of our main objectives are, obviously. And then we're basically the producer in the ring. Most talent, at least I would say at least 95% of talent on the indies will listen to the referees, on there. I'm like, you'll have some talent that like, whatever, you're just a ref. I get that I hear it every now and then. I'm like, I just blow it off. I'm like, I've been doing this too long. I'm like, that comment doesn't really, pertain to me anymore. I don't really care too much, but you need a referee to keep on going and going and stuff like that. You got time, if you're working TV, like I did a couple months with MLW, early last year. And then, we're mic'd up to the guys in the back, which, we're doing TV. So, he was like, hey, to let them know they got 2 minutes, stuff like that. Hey, 1 minute, hey, 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, let's go. Because sometimes, you're taping, the way MLW does. I'm like, they'll tape, a couple weeks of TV, in one night. So you're doing 12, 13, 14 matches, give or take, on there. So it's a lot, but that's where the referee comes in at.
Oh yeah. The referees, it's not like there's a whole bunch of you there and you're each only getting one match. You're getting multiple, especially on the independent shows.
Oh yeah.
Like
I'm like,
where there's like multiple matches in a night,
mhm.
and then yeah, because like I said, I've seen some cases of some bad ones, like I got a ref shirt
That's
because like okay, this one is one that always like I don't like throwing people under the bus,
oh no, I do. So feel free. That's
but this one was so bad that I'm like I can't help but talk about it sometimes
uh,
because okay, we all know the rules of like a last man standing match.
yeah.
Somebody gets knocked down, they start the count, but if the person down starts getting attacked again, the count stops.
It's usually broken, correct.
Well, this one particular guy kept counting
Oh, there you go.
the whole match.
Oh, Jesus
And
Christ.
at one point, I literally screamed at him and I'm like, I could do your job better than you.
It's mind boggling sometimes the stuff that you see on the internet. I'm like, and I see it clipped on on Twitter and stuff like that, or different gifs and like I'm like, oh, that's just terrible. I'm like, it hurts your head every now and then to just like watching this stuff. I'm like, really? I'm like, we get trained just like the wrestlers do. I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to know the rules of don't get me wrong. I'm like, there's some gray areas.
Yeah.
I'm like, we get in. I deal with an H2O every now and then. I'm like, guy will run by me, run a spot by me. I'm like, he's like, oh, it's like, should you DQ me? I'm like, uh, it's hard to say sometimes because I'm like, I kind of like to use the WWE TV rules with certain things, like a triple threats, no disqualification, stuff like stuff like that, which we use anyway. But there's some other times when we're like, oh, it's like, hey, I'm like, guy coming in, in the ring, he's got a leg through the rope, the guy kicks the rope. I'm like, it's like, well, would that negate a low blow? I'm like, that's it's so hard to figure out. I'm like, it's depending on what promotion you're in, if they're
Yeah.
hardcore on the rules, that's one thing. I'm like, if they're kind of a little lenient, if we use the infamous, relaxed rules, which I like to do because it kind of makes everybody safe in that aspect. Like, you see how AEW gets buried, their referees get buried during tag matches, without a doubt, because, nobody listens to them, one bit or anything like that. So just make it a Texas Tornado match. That solves it right there.
Yeah.
Then your referee's safe. You're not burying your referee or anything like that. So,
No,
but
yeah. No,
some people
there's
don't think like that.
oh yeah. No, that I definitely noticed. And hey, I'm a fan of the AEW product, especially right now, Swerve and the
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Man,
Strickland's been he's been ever since he got released and stuff like that. But I'm like, even beforehand, I'm like, he was he's always been a money guy right there. I'm like, it was like there was there was so much stock into him, and like some people just didn't realize the potential that Shane's had and stuff like that. And I'm like, and he's been around long. People don't realize. I'm like, he's been around a while. Like he was on the Indies, even before they did the hit row gimmick in NXT and stuff like that. So
Kill Shot and Lucha Underground.
yeah, exactly. People forget about that one too.
That
People
was
forget about Lucha. People forget about Lucha Underground anyway, but they shouldn't. But people that Ricochet was there. Mysterio was there. And stuff
yeah,
like that. So a lot of people don't realize that stuff.
Johnny TV or whatever the hell he's going by now.
Oh yeah, he could Johnny, whatever promotion he's working for at the
Yeah,
time.
like I'm a fan of him, but it's kind of funny how like Johnny whatever promotion he's at. It's
I like it.
literally
It's hysterical.
and hey, it works. You
Yeah,
can
exactly.
literally change it to wherever. You can
Yeah,
make a special shirt for some promotion
yeah.
saying this, and boom, make a ton of money there because people are like, "Oh, a special shirt only for here."
He was doing Bloodsport. Actually, a couple hours ago. Actually, I think it ended about an hour ago, local time here. But he was Johnny Bloodsport there.
Yeah.
So it's perfect on there.
Oh
And
yeah.
he was Johnny Fusion for a little bit in MLW until he was using his real name, and stuff like that then too. So, but yeah, he's he's everywhere. I'm like, the gimmick's great.
Oh yeah, hell. Speaking of the last two people we mentioned, some of the stuff behind me here, like the entire top row is all signed figures.
Okay, yeah.
Right
See,
here.
I see.
Speaking of the
Yeah,
guy we just talked about,
yeah.
then right directly behind me, Swerve.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I see him in the corner
there. And yeah, I'm even having to go down to a second shelf because at Revolver, boom, Matt Cardona.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was fun.
Good stuff there.
Oh yeah. Now back to some H2O stuff. It's been a busy Mania week. Now, especially, not just for H2O and IWTV, but hell, me and the podcast and the channels, I got something releasing every single day this week, Sunday through Sunday.
Oh, nice.
And that has been crazy trying to make sure I don't forget something. Because after as many episodes as I've done, it gets that way sometimes. But you guys have had one busy freaking week. I wasn't expecting to really get too many recordings done this week because I'm like, especially on East Coast, people are going to be busy as hell.
Yeah, mostly everybody tries to stay busy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Hey, I can't blame anybody. If I were there, yeah, there probably wouldn't be too much time where I didn't have something going.
There's a show. There's a show Monday. There's a show Monday straight through Sunday, at the H2O center. He's got a right now. What are we, a Thursday on there? He's got a Action Wrestling's there tonight. From the South. They got their show at 8:00. I know ICW's there tomorrow night doing their show on their was it International Incident or something like that. So there's a lot of international talent there.
Saturday's got something.
Yeah, like ETU's there on Saturday afternoon. I know PWI, has a show at noon on there, and then Ruthless Pro actually has a show there Sunday afternoon on there. So yeah, there was a little bit for everybody. I'm like, IGB was there last night at the Intergender Bonanza, which I just got done doing on there. So we did that show, which all the shows have knock on wood tonight too for Action. All the shows have been drawing good. There's been decent crowds, which is great. That's what you want. I'm like, you want everything to be possible.
Definitely.
I'll always hate. You always see that all the hate on there. Like, well, I hope this show doesn't draw or this or that. I'm like, for what reason? I'm like, it's work for all of us, and more shows for the fans to go to. Stuff like that.
That's the way I think about pro wrestling in general. Is I'm not gonna wish ill on any promotion as much as some kind of bring it on themselves.
Yeah, well, some deserve it. Don't get me wrong, but
but I've always said I'm never gonna tell anybody not to go to one promotion or the other.
Of course.
If you have a friend that's going to be performing there, or if they're willing to give you a booking, by all means, make your money. Or if you're a fan, go have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what pro wrestling should be.
Yep.
For the people involved in the show to be making money, and for the fans to be going and having fun.
Oh, without doubt, that's kind of what it's what this whole. It was like we are the entertainment business, and like support whatever you want to support, but by all means, I'm like stop hating on certain things. I'm like it's like you see it with AEW, WWE fans and stuff like that on the mainstream wrestling, and you see it with indie wrestling. It's all over the place. I'm like you get indie wrestling drama all over the place. I'm like it's it sucks, but it is what it is. I'm like it's the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Now, one thing that we kind of talked about with Hustle Cup was, man, that was a crazy show, and you were out there having your hands full, like we said, And this was actually the first one that I ever got to watch like live as it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other ones, at least as far as last year goes, I think I had gotten rid of IWTV for a while because I was having to financial shit. And then after talking with so many H2O people, I'm like, man, I got to get this back so I can see some of this stuff these guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Because I've always, kind of kept up with H2O, but never, well, the last year or two before I started talking to everybody, I hadn't been able to, like, besides clips and stuff on social media, I haven't been able to see like full shows. But then I don't think I've missed one
Nice.
lately.
I appreciate it.
Like the entire Uncharted territory.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was rough on me. Yeah, that was rough. That was rough on there. For especially
Though,
when we were filming it, and then from where I was coming from on there on those Monday nights too. I'm like those were 16-hour Mondays for me, which were brutal.
though I can only imagine, and some of the stuff that was happening in those shows, like I mentioned about watching shows when my wife actually made an attempt to sit down and watch a show with me, and it happened to be one of the deathmatch discovery gauntlets.
Oh, okay,
And
right.
they happened, I forget which one, but there was a whole shit load of carpet strips.
Oh yeah, it was probably one was like Christian Ross or something like that. I think on there.
Probably.
I know he did a couple. I know he was like doing 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I think he was doing some. He was kind of like the winner on there. And yeah, we were trying not to use glass that much, on there for a Monday night show and stuff like that. So it's unnecessary. I'm like, you don't need that. You don't need glass in a death, to have a good death match. So I'm like, it's kind of an
Yeah.
old adage. It's an old adage, and like people don't realize. I'm like, oh, it was like, where's the glass at? I'm like, you're not getting it. You can do a death match without glass. Sorry.
Yeah.
Watch
It can
literally
be.
watch with the Hustle Cup. Watch Joe Bateman and Vic Craig versus Stretch and Anthrax. Not one
Yeah.
piece of glass in there. That was a disgusting death match.
Oh my God. And that spot with Alex Stretch there, I think towards the end where
No, just an old drop.
the barbed wire table where
Yeah,
like only like the one section of the table broke
yeah.
and Alex Stretch is just bent over backwards on
I'm
top of
like,
the table.
Vic went right through to like I think he broke the small half of the table and he went right to the floor. Stretch, I think, was actually like stuck in the barbed wire. I think he misjudged of where the table actually was, or it got moved during a match and nobody realized it on there. He was, and then I saw that in the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh, that's just not good.
Yeah, I just remember watching it and I had even less of a voice than I do now. And I just remember almost wanting to scream, somebody check to make sure he's still alive.
Yeah, and like luckily we actually had security right down there, and they checked on her because I had my hands full with Anthrax and Bateman at the time in the ring. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, that's the one challenge with like tag team death matches or multi-man death matches. I'm like, you got carnage all over the place. I'm like, and you're only one person. It
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
that's where you need your security team and stuff like that, or other wrestlers that were checking on people. Thank God.
That or that's one of those types of matches where you almost need more than one ref.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I try to do stuff like that, but then sometimes I'm like, you only have like two refs on a show, or another
That,
ref, got hurt or this or that. I'm like, oh, like now
yeah,
they're up a crick.
yeah, no, that is true. Now, other thing that you know wanted to talk about because this actually sparked me wanting to talk to you is seeing your banner up on the wall at the H2O shows. What was that like for you getting recognized like that? Because I mean, your banner's up there with the likes of the late great Danny Havoc Mickey Knuckles, Shane Douglas, which I almost forgot he was even involved there.
Yeah, early day. Yeah, early day. Yeah, he was the first champion actually. Yeah.
So what was that like? For you getting recognized like that, and now for however long H2O has that building, and hell, if they decide to go anywhere else from there, your banner's going to be up there with everybody.
Yeah, it was quite an honor, which actually caught me completely off guard. I was actually 2 days prior to that, I was doing an Intergender Bonanza show that Sam Styles operates on that Thursday night. And little known fact, I'm like Tremont actually does the music, every now and then, back there, before before he, metamorphosized, so to speak, into a killdozer on there. So he was doing music and and all that stuff, and he's got the run sheet for everybody. So he's got setting up everyone's music. He's like, "Oh, hey, I got something to show you." I'm like, "I'm not thinking anything of it or anything like that." And he pulls it up on his laptop, and shows me the banner on there. I was like, "Dude, really?" Um, I'm like, "Dude, Matt, you didn't need to do that." I'm like, one bit. It's like, no, I was like, no, it's like, dude, you're one of the few that have actually been here since day one. I'm like, no, I appreciate the honor. I was kind of flabbergasted with him. Like it caught me, it caught me aback, so to speak, on there. Like, and then what you just said, I'm like, the people that are actually in the Hall of Fame is like Shane Douglas, Danny Havoc, Louis, Louis in there too. On top of that,
Life Louis, yeah.
Yeah, Mickey got inducted too, last year, I think sometime on there, just, a couple months actually, I think before I did, on there. So I'm like, I was kind of taken aback to it. I'm like, but I appreciated it so much too. I'm like, I told him, I was like, dude, you didn't need to do that. I'm like, I don't need to get recognized like that. But he's like, no, I was like, dude, you've been here, you've done 95% of my death matches. I was in there, in there with Matt, with Onita, back in CCW back in like 2017, and stuff like that. I was in there when he won the world title for the first time, So I'm like, I guess, paying, kind of almost like, paying it back to me, so to speak. So, which I will always be in debt to him with that. So it was, it was a cool moment. Don't get me wrong. But the funny thing is too, on top of that, I'm like, I busted his chops after he showed me the banner. I'm like, hey, you misspelled my last name. So I'm like, I got him on that one, but I'm like, he didn't do the graphics, so I'm like, it's okay then. So
I could almost imagine a reaction like, "Oh my god, really?"
yeah, he literally forgot one letter, so you don't really notice it too much. So thank God. I think there's like a missing eye in there somewhere, which I'm like, no big deal. I don't care.
Yeah.
You used a good photo, which is what I appreciated about. So that's all I cared about.
Oh yeah, at least your name isn't stuck up there with a bad photo or something.
No, exactly. Thank God for that.
Now, with a Hall of Fame career and still going, are there any like dream matches you might have left that like you want to be in there for?
That's actually hard to say because it's like besides H2O, I'm like I do travel every now and then to other promotions. I'll sometimes work at MCW in Maryland, with them down there. But I'm like, like dream matches. I'm like it's almost hard to say. It's like maybe with like some a lot more international talent, possibly, and like a lot of the we just had Lou Nixon, come through actually, a little early. Wonders, I know he's on the ICW show or Mania week over there on Friday night. But a lot of the UK guys, I'm like, I haven't got a chance to work with. So I'm like, that will be nice, on there. I'm like, even some Japanese talent that I haven't got a chance to work with. I work with Onita. I'm like, I worked with Kota Ibushi back in the day. Actually a young Ibushi on there, not the Ibushi you see now on there. It was like jacked out of his mind, on there. So, but yeah, that's probably about it. Like maybe more international talent, anything else? Because I'm like American talent, and like if you just want to stay to the deathmatch scene, I probably work with all of them at least once, one way
I
or
was
the
gonna
other.
say you've worked with a good chunk, if not all of them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like I worked with when Cologne was coming up, obviously Matt and stuff like that. I'm like, Havoc I work with a lot, Drake Younger I work with a lot before he left, and so on and so on. I'm like, it's like, though that's upper echelon talent in the deathmatch
Yeah.
scene on there.
Oh yeah. And speaking of Younger, when he was a referee out at WWE, you remember hearing about the house show where he like snapped his ankle or something?
Oh, that was actually Tom Castor. He was another referee. Actually, looked like him a little bit on there. He
I
got
was
a
gonna say, it sure as hell looked like him.
Yeah, it was actually it was a different referee on there. Yeah, he got super kicked. I think it was actually like Tyler Breeze super kicked him on there, and it's just the way he went down.
Yeah.
Like he stayed one way, but his leg went the other way.
Okay.
Which
Okay.
I
Yeah.
take that exact bump that he did. I'm like, and it's such a freak thing that can happen, on there with that. Which thank God Tom made a good recovery out of it. So
Yeah. I don't know why, but I'm one to say for some reason I thought it being Younger because I want to say I heard maybe it was just knowing that I saw a response of his to the incident.
oh, okay.
That could have been. But the reason I actually brought it up is because I was actually at that show.
Oh wow, yeah, it was an NXT house show, I believe, wasn't it? I think somewhere.
Yep. NXT house show here in Omaha.
Oh, okay, wow, okay.
I was like third row, not too far away from the entrance.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, they wheeled him off right by me, and I could like see his ankle
Uh,
just like that.
yeah, I think he was out like almost a year, if not a little more, on
Yeah,
there. And like he made a full recovery because he's still refereeing now with NXT. God bless him, for that. So
yeah. Wow. Okay. Now I got my information corrected. I always I always say, I don't get everything correct all the damn time.
all the referees that shave their heads are all look alike. So that's what
But
we all do. So trust me.
I wasn't gonna go that way.
I'll go that way.
But yeah, no, that was a wild, wild show. Like I think I remember the other thing I remember in particular from that show was actually okay, I can be a little bit of a stinker at the wrestling shows because I like to get somebody to crack. Whether it's a wrestler, referee, ring announcer, commentary, whatever. Photographer don't matter. And at that one, I'm wanting to say it was Riddick Moss. He had that gimmick where he was like the fitness guy. He had the water bottle over.
Oh yeah,
He
his old gimmick. Yeah, I remember this.
he went to go get a drink during the middle of a match, and I just yelled out, "Water sucks! It really, really is." From Water Point. And I just then he got into the like a headlock with the other guy. And I was just like, Gatorade.
Oh, these are the old water boy lines. Jesus
And
Christ.
he just looked at me and pointed like, you mother. And I'm like, yes.
See, that's why I'm like, even my wife agrees. I'm like, house shows are probably the best thing to go to on there because they was guys and the girls are having a blast. I'm like, there's no cameras on them or anything like that. You're not worried about time constraints, or anything like that. So it's like that when we go on to smaller shows, like when I'm, where I know if I'm out on like any kind of streaming service, if
Yeah.
it's True or TV or IWTV. If I know that's not the case, I can have a blast then on there too. So it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
more fun that way. It's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
it's kind of like what Joe Bateman, me and him have like me and him go back a long ways and stuff like that. And I did his 2 matches on Monday and Tuesday this week and stuff like that. And we're just having a blast, doing like ring introductions and stuff like that. Where I already know the camera's not on us. So me and him were just like cracking jokes to each other, like just repeatedly on there. So
That's
like
awesome.
It's like little fun like that because I don't get to see Joel that often. Like maybe once or twice a year if I'm lucky enough. When he comes up from Australia and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
so they're
He's
always
not up here too terribly frequently.
no, not as much as he used to. And I know he was up here almost like every like 3, 4, 5 months at one point. Like now it's maybe once a year, on there. So like he'll do a tour. He'll do a tour of US and stuff like that. I know he was in Texas, I think. He did Wrestle Rave, down there, I think like last Thursday. And then
Yeah.
he was doing our shows Monday and Tuesday. I know he was doing them. I think he was doing Sean Henderson shows on Thursday in the afternoon. I'm like, so yeah, he's traveling around. I know he's got Friday, then he's got Sunday, at least up here with all the Mania stuff. So yeah, he's up
No,
here. I think they're up here to like Tuesday or something like that.
yeah. Oh God, I was just remembering one as you were talking. The one that I'm almost most proud of because I actually got to hear after the show how much this popped the guy. And it was actually Mike Bennett.
Okay.
He was here in Omaha, and at one point there was like a little bit of a quiet in the crowd, and I just yell out, "Adam!" And he just busted out laughing.
Nice.
Like he cracked the hell up. And then I got to talk with him after the show. He was like, "Dude, that popped the hell out of me." And I'm like,
It's good. That's what we do sometimes. I'm like, we're in the ring. I'm like, we're just trying to pop each other a little, but little by little, even if it's backstage, of us like yelling across like the arena or something like that.
"Oh yeah." And that's my whole thing. I want to, like, I'm there to have fun. Sometimes when I'm there, I also do event vlogs at a lot of the shows I go to.
Okay.
But still, even doing those vlogs, I'm trying to show how much fun I'm having. And a lot of that is trying to pop or get one of the guys to crack.
Yeah. That's the best part. I'm like, you can do that. I'm like, yeah, you make their night, on there. Especially like I said, when there's no cameras on us, it's even better because they're more vocal with the crowd and in that aspect. So because there's like I said, there's no you don't have to worry about commercials or this or that. I'm like, oh, we got 30 seconds to go back on live TV. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to worry about that. That's why that's why the house shows are the best.
Oh yeah. I haven't been to a house show in a while now that I think about it.
It was like 2 years for me. And we went down to Atlantic City. Actually, they were down at the Hard Rock Arena on there on the casino on there. It was a random house show. It was like a Sunday afternoon. It was like a Sunday at like 5 in the summertime. So it was.
Huh.
I think TCW was actually down there too at the same time.
Huh.
On there too. So some of the guys and girls were going back and forth on there to watch the shows.
Hey, if you can do it, I wouldn't blame anybody doing
Yeah,
that.
they were logistic wise. I'm like, I think it's only about maybe a mile or two from away from each other. So that's nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. I'm trying to think that I mean, hell, I'm not complaining about them doing TV here, but literally for a while, all we would get is house shows here in Omaha and the
Oh, yeah.
Lincoln, Nebraska area. And now we go from mostly house shows to we literally only get TV. We haven't had a pay-per-view here since like 2008.
Oh Jesus! Wow, that's a long stretch there. That's jeez.
The
I'm like,
year, the reason that year sticks to me is because that was the year I entered the Navy.
oh, okay. Oh,
It was like a couple months before I left.
oh, I get where you got deployed at that time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So yeah, it was like really, and then the to further rub it in, the one of the first tribute to the troop shows
Mhm.
after I got out ended up being on the pier in San Diego where I was stationed, and you could see my ship in the background.
Oh wow, oh, that's nice.
Somebody that I knew that was still there was telling me about it. I'm like, God damn it, they never did any cool shit like that when I was there. Motherfuckers. Oh, well. Well, now I have two categories. I got a little bit of a name game where I name off some people and you give me some quick thoughts on them. I try to theme it towards the guests as much as possible. And, what these people have two things in common. One, they're all heavily featured with H2O,
Okay.
and they've also been on the show.
Okay, gotcha.
First one was one hell of an entertaining show, and I'm happy that he's holding gold right now. Neil Diamond Cutter.
Neil's great on there with he kind of brings us all together backstage, in a locker room on there. He's like our locker room dad almost, on there with everybody. So Neil's great in the ring and stuff like that. So
yeah,
Neil's great people.
Oh yeah, no, I've got nothing but great things to say about him. He has that aura about him that like bringing everybody together. He just has that aura about him.
Exactly. No negativity whatsoever. So that's what you want in the business.
Oh yeah. Next one, this guy was he at the time I had him on was playing the bit of a heel, but now he's back as 1/3 of Peace, Love, Deathmatch, Anthrax.
I ribbed him constantly on there when I was a heel actually with Rod Mathis' group a couple of years ago. On her doing that deal on her. He was always trying to get me to ref his matches because he knows my background and stuff like that. Because I don't for some reason some people put me on a higher pedestal for refereeing, which I don't really need that or deserve that or anything like that. But I appreciate it regardless. So he would always try to get me to do his matches. I'm like, dude, I'm a heel. I can't do your matches, on there. So, I'm like, once I turned back and got the shit kicked out of me from Mathis and booted from there. I'm like, then I started doing his matches religiously then. So, Anthrax has always been good people.
Oh yeah, no, he even playing the heel at the time that I had him on, he wasn't one of those that kind of. Oh, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. He wasn't one of those that was like he stuck to the heel side so much that he wasn't respectful in the interview. Like he definitely, when answering some questions, obviously trying to keep up that part of the story.
Yeah.
So I got nothing but love for him, and especially his episode is actually on the YouTube channel, one of the top 10 most viewed ones right now.
Oh wow! I'm going to be straight on the bottom. I'm just going to bury people.
he's actually directly behind former Ring of Honor 6-man tag champ Dutch.
Oh wow! Oh wow! I forgot all about him. Actually, he made a stay in H2O. I think a couple years ago we did a random. I think it was like 305 Haas show. It was actually just our deal with when 205 Live came out on there. He did Matt was like, well, let's do 305 Haas. It was basically a big Haas tournament, on there. So kind of a lost gem. Actually, it's way back when I was before COVID, actually, and stuff like that. It might be around like 2018 or something like that, possibly. On her, probably up on IW. I was supposed to up on IWTV. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna have to look that one up because it was funny for me because I stopped posting about I was gonna be recording with somebody until after it's already done. Like I finished recording with somebody because too many people flaked on me. But when I made the post about having recorded with him,
Mhm.
All of a sudden, I'm on my way home from work, and I look down, and there's this alert on my phone on Twitter, and I'm like, wait a second. So then I get to somewhere I can stop and I can check it safely.
Yeah.
And let's just say I about dropped my phone because, well, the person that ended up liking the tweet was the one and only Bray Wyatt.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
And I was like, I immediately went over and messaged him after I got home. And I'm like, I did not know you were friends with Bray Wyatt for some reason. And he's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, that explains it then.
Yeah, it's back to probably the FCW days, I think, when he was down there.
Probably. But yeah, that still to this day was like wild for me. It was a little something simple as a like, but it was like, holy
Yeah,
crap,
you
somebody
don't
of
realize,
that
yeah,
caliber saw
yeah,
something of mine.
yeah, you don't realize the power of social media at times of like who can view stuff, without a doubt.
Oh yeah. And then I remember after his unfortunate passing that I messaged Dutch and I'm like, I don't know if when you're gonna get this or if you'll even feel like responding, but I just told him I remembered that, and I wanted to say, just my condolences and stuff. So yeah, that I remember posting about that moment after the passing, and yeah, I got a little choked up. I ain't afraid to admit it.
No, nothing wrong with that. Like we all did, trust me.
Oh yeah, Lord knows I've had my moments. Now, next person, this guy is actually the interview that's getting released. This will your episode will be after this,
Okay.
but the episode is actually with this person is getting released this coming Sunday. My finale of my special Mania Week content. And the one thing I have to say about him is it's watching him, it's plainly obvious how Sabu is one of his influences.
Uh-oh.
Alex Stretch.
He's he's a fucking maniac. We'll literally leave it at that. He's out of his mind. I'm like, if you're literally just if you're just shooting a shit backstage or something like that in the locker room, and he overhears something like as far as like a spot in the mat, a spot that he wants that you're doing or something like this, he would actually try to transform it almost into like a death match spot. Hunter, he's like his mind just continuously works, in that, and like he's constantly like evolving weaponry. It's like some of the stuff is just absolutely just ridiculous that he comes up with it. It's probably the nicest way of putting it. Like he's just an absolute maniac with some of his stuff, on there. It's he's got the charisma, he's got the got the music down pat and stuff like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's got the crowd behind him. I'm like, he can do no wrong. I'm like, just put him what I like to see someday, maybe down the line, put him in a TOS, for Tournament of Survival, GCW or something like that. Put him in a upper echelon, death match, see how he does and stuff like that. Because I
That
guarantee you,
would be epic.
I guarantee you, there's people that don't know about anything about him. If you're not watching H2O or something like that, he does travel to other shows
Yeah,
besides H2O. So it's not like he's just stuck in Jersey. Like he does do other like deathmatch companies. So
oh yeah, no, and like I said, with his style, it is plainly obvious why
oh
Sabu
yeah,
was one of his because as they would always say about Sabu being kind of the madman of ECW.
yeah.
Alex Stretch is pretty much the madman of H2O.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Just no regard for his body whatsoever. He doesn't care one bit. So
the before we move on to the next person, one thing that I sometimes cringe, but I get a chuckle too. Whenever he goes through a rather painful spot, there's times where like the camera is on his face and you can see him almost laughing, and I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, you one
yeah,
sick son of a bitch.
yeah. Without a doubt, he is. Trust me on that one. Being in the ring with him enough as it is, I'm like, he's just straight psychotic, but in a good way.
Oh yeah, and I kind of gravitate towards those intense, wild personas. So I guess that's kind of why I gravitated towards him.
Perfect one to gravitate towards.
Oh yeah, hell, he's even. I told him that I hadn't ever had any flavor of Fago,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, soda, yeah.
and he told me he's sending me his two favorites.
Oh Jesus, yeah, that's there's a bottle of Fago usually one way or the other in his matches. Like they're like that's like the Easter egg that we have on there. One way or the other, it's somewhere there. I'm like even if it's in a pit or something, the bottle's always there.
I was gonna say I've seen him more than once carrying out a bottle of Fago with him.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt, it's always there.
Oh yeah, no, that's fitting for him.
Yeah.
Now, last but not least for this category, the grimy bitch Jess Moss.
Me and Jess go back a while. This goes back to her CCW days almost when she was actually in the crowd. That's actually where she knows me from, on there. And then kind of when she actually got trained over at the she was training at the GCW compound actually with Homicide. It was actually
Okay.
is one of her trainers actually.
I think
To
we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's actually her original trainer was Homicide, and then she kind of got like polished up by Tremont, at the H2O school on there. But yeah, she's got a untapped potential, on there. Like right now, she's actually coming into her own, with everything too. On top of that, like she had say maybe last year or a year before, she stood toe to toe with Mickey Knuckles, and somehow survived. Trust me, Mickey's a tough person, on there.
Yeah,
Like if you can,
that's true.
if you can last in the ring with Mickey, okay, then you can really last in the ring with anybody, on there.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Mickey is one
Mickey's
of
got that
the.
aura around her, on there. She's
Oh
actually
yeah,
one of the female deathmatch people that actually just has that aura every time she's around, on there.
oh yeah. And I kind of put both Jess Moss and Mickey Knuckles into this category that, in my head, covers a few people, but equal opportunity ass kickers.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Either one of them, because they could, like, there's people out there that complain about intergender wrestling, and I'm like, if you want equality, you want equal footing for everybody, and
Yeah,
you got somebody from one gender that can go, and you got somebody from an opposite gender can go, what better of a way for equal footing than boom, just having them go?
yeah, without a doubt. I use the Intergender Bonanza stuff from Stan Styles actually as a perfect example because we actually had it was actually Austin Luke versus Janai Kai last night on there. I'm like that it's the two perfect styles, on there. They're kind of like if you actually look at it, they're mirror images of each other.
Oh yeah,
On there, you don't realize. I'm like I know Janai's just getting her feet wet now, on there. I know she's been around a little bit, but just also same thing and stuff like that. So, but yeah, when you can get styles clashing like that, like the same style on there, it's gold.
oh, most definitely. Now I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be.
That's fine.
Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far. So I give you the question, you give me first answer that pops in your head. First one, and I know being at H2O in particular, there's probably a lot to choose from. But craziest in-match moment that you've been there to ref?
Probably where are we at? Maybe we're in 2024. Maybe 2 years ago this match happened. It was actually I think it was the first one. It was actually Tremont versus Sawyer Wreck. The first one on there, which actually I think that may have been Sawyer's first H2O match. I'm not 100% sure on there. But they actually did, I think the finish, or at least going towards the end of the match, was two chair stacked door on there. Well, then Tremont wanted to get creative and let's go put two more doors on top of that door. On top, yeah, he had two chairs on top of the door that's already placed on there, and then put another door on top of that. So he had double deck doors on there. Basically, you have these stacked tables on there, so it's stacked doors. Well, they're going to be bumping around on there, so they're making their way up to the top, and like they're trying to fight. They're fighting each other off on there, but you see the contraption wobbling on there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I'm like, I had to like quickly go into, panic mode almost and make sure it actually stays up on there.
Yeah.
The camera probably doesn't pick it up. And like, I was probably using my, my in-ring voice on there. Oh my God. They're still fighting up at the top and this thing's fucking wobbling back and forth. I'm like, I basically just told Tremont and Sawyer, I'm like, fucking bump already. Like in my in-ring voice on there because I'm like tired of holding this thing. I'm like, just go through it already.
No,
I'm like, because you don't realize I'm like, you're in there for 25 seconds holding the contraption up. 25 seconds is like 10 minutes in there. You don't realize how long of a time it is, on there.
Yeah.
But
Especially,
that was probably it was crazy. It was crazy. I'm like, just bump, get this over with, please.
Oh, yeah.
I'm tired of holding this thing.
And I can only imagine when you're in there and it probably being one of those moments where like, yeah, it might only be a short amount of time, but when it's, something crazy like that, it seems like a hell of a lot longer.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I'm like, even though it's only seconds, I'm like, it's literally like an eternity.
Oh yeah. Like that moment actually reminded me of one of the craziest moments that I've personally seen. And it was actually at that Jake, Chris, Joel Bateman match.
Okay.
And it was the ending of it where they had 4 folding chairs.
Yeah.
They bridged 2 panes of glass on them.
Okay.
And then I see Bobby roll in and I see him pull out a thing of lighter fluid.
Oh, the flaming glass spots, yeah. Fire, I can't stand. Fire, I despise fire.
That was the first time I'd seen fire at a wrestling show like that.
Yeah. And I'm like, no.
The other time was literally at this last one that I went to when Bully Ray made a surprise appearance and helped
put Cardona through the table,
through the flaming table.
Yeah. Like, yeah, but at least that's a controlled atmosphere. Sometimes, people can get reckless with the lighter fluid, on there. Watch the Onita Tremont match, that we had in the stadium. We use lighter fluid, like the little yellow bottle with the red tip on there. That's controlled on there. He was using I think kerosene or butane or something like that. It was just, and he just kept on dumping it and dumping it and dumping it. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ! I'm like, I didn't do that. I wasn't involved with that match, but I'm like, because I don't really like working in fire. That's like my crutch. for like
Oh
death
God,
match.
yeah. No,
That's it. I'm like, unless you guys request me to do it, I'll do it. But other than that, I'm like, fire, I don't do.
oh yeah. Fire is one of those things. Like hell, a perfect example, other than the one you brought up, was actually I think it was Sabu and the Sheik
Okay.
versus I want to say it was Onita. I might be wrong, but it was Sabu and Sheik versus somebody, and they had like the towels wrapped around.
Oh, yeah, the old Big Japan Day on there or something. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Where I think they got the ring almost got engulfed in flames or something like that. They have put like
Like
too much fluid in there. I think.
yeah, like the fire inside the ring was getting so hot that they literally had to escape the ring somehow.
I think that was on the. I think that was on Onita's Dark Side of the Ring actually. When it was like
That yeah, that
it
one.
was actually suffocating. It was taking all the oxygen out of the ring, and the guys couldn't even, they couldn't breathe on there. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that match.
One of my favorite episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, actually.
Oh, it's actually very good on there. It's actually I love those episodes on there. I gotta catch up on that stuff soon.
Oh yeah, I got to catch up on this last season. I think they're on another one. I could be wrong. My memory and the amount of wrestling I'm having to consume right now is making my memory a little fuzzy. But my actual all time favorite episode though was Bruiser Brody's episode.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, I was actually, I don't think I was actually too young when it actually happened, but when you always hear the stories about it and stuff like that, oh my God, holy shit! I'm like, people don't realize that stuff actually does happen in wrestling. You don't realize it.
Hell, I've heard from people that have been to Puerto Rico recently, and not that people are getting stabbed in the locker rooms, but in that same venue, wrestlers are getting attacked with knives in the audience.
Yeah, yeah, the fans, yeah. It's almost like it's an old school crowd. I'm like, the heel antagonizes the fans and stuff like that. I'm like, next time you come there, I'm like, oh, they'll just pull a switchblade on you or something like that. God forbid.
Yep, I've heard a few stories. Now, okay, couple of these. Well, this one is actually somewhat mania related, and we've said some stuff about Philadelphia. That's where this upcoming WrestleMania is. Now, I have only ever flown through Philadelphia, which
Smart.
I regret because I've always wanted to have an authentic cheesesteak.
No.
Like that is like I have them other places, but then
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't feel the same as I imagine it would having one there.
It's no, it's true. I can totally get where you're coming from with that one on there.
What would you say, in your opinion? Because I know there's different opinions here.
Yeah.
Best cheesesteak.
If you ever go into Philly and stuff like that, people, especially, with Mania and stuff like that, they're going to go, it's like, oh, you hear about Pat's and Geno's, stuff like that. Yeah, well, don't go there. I'm like, that's all the touristy bullshit. You don't, it's overpriced, overrated. If you're going to go to, you're going to go to an actual cheesesteak place. Tony Luke's is one because, especially if you're going to 2300 Arena is actually right around the corner from it on there. Jim Steaks is good. Steve Steaks is another one. There's a smaller place called Delisandro's if you can actually find it. I think it's actually like I forget what section of Philly it's in, but they're three or four best ones right there. On there.
Okay. I'm definitely going to have to keep those in mind because I've been able to travel a lot, but most of my traveling has been west. Like
Okay.
literally draw a line from North Dakota down. I've covered every single one of those states.
Oh wow, jeez. Now you got to go the other way.
Yeah, I got to go the other way now. I've got a little done. I've been to New York City. I've
Okay.
most of my first year in the Navy was spent down in like Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, that
Oh, okay.
area.
Okay, got it. All the South.
And then, some in the Carolinas, but in Virginia. But yeah, never been up to Philadelphia yet. That's
Oh, there
still
you
on my
go.
list.
Yeah. It's a good one to have on there, especially if you're a wrestling fan. On there you
Oh yeah.
gotta eventually, check that off on there.
Oh, most definitely. And, also me being a baseball fan I am. And my favorite team, the team where I was stationed, the San Diego Padres,
Yeah.
trying to, my dream trip actually would be lining up a Padres Phillies game and a wrestling show at the old ECW arena in the same trip.
They're in the same vicinity, so they're only about maybe what 2 miles away from each other. So it's sports complex is right there. So that's the one good thing about our sports complex. All three of our arenas, Link Citizens Bank Park and Wells Fargo Center, they're all in the same area. So you can
Gotcha.
literally it's like hopping parking lots basically. Like quarter mile. They're like a quarter mile away from each other as far as like driving distance. If that.
Okay.
So yeah, they're all
That's
close together. And then the
kind
ECW
of
arena is 3 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, give or take.
nice. So extremely doable.
No, without doubt, without doubt.
With a pun unintended there.
It's true, yes.
I didn't even realize it until after I said it. I'm like, wow, that was one hell of a pun. All right. Now, besides, you being a great ref yourself, who is somebody that you consider to be one of the best referees
Ever?
ever?
Okay. You're going to get every referee is always going to say this name, and it's Tommy Young. Like that's one. Every referee should at least say that name, on there. It's kind of like sacrilegious if you don't include him in there. And then you're always going to get, your Earl Hebners, on there. I grew up with, I was a Mike Chioda guy. I grew up with him. He was kind of like my referee growing up. On there, you see him going through the late '80s, early '90s, straight through the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you got him. Charles Robbins is another one. Great ref. On there. Dan Engler, people know him as Rudy Charles, back in TNA. He's great referee. He took care of me when I did some extra work for WWE back in the day on there. John Cone was another good one. John Cone's actually not reffing anymore. He's kind of an office guy now for them, I believe,
Yeah.
in the talent relations office. So you don't see him on TV anymore, but they're kind of like my Jason Ayers, you might know him as Jason Harding from Evolve, Dragon
Okay.
Gate USA days, and he's one of the SmackDown referees actually. So,
Okay.
we stay close with each other and stuff like that. So,
That's awesome.
one of the
I
last indie referees that got hired, so to
okay.
speak, on there. So,
Okay. I know I've actually got to meet one of my favorites from back growing up. And it was kind of weird because I went to go meet Becky Lynch at the World of Wheels show.
okay,
This was like a couple years ago. And all of a sudden I noticed as I'm walking away that person with WWE that was there with her was the now late great Tim White.
oh yeah, yeah. Tim did stuff backstage. I know that. On her, I think I don't know if he was doing talent relations or he was just there, as far as like more security for her or something like that, or
I think that might have
travel wise.
I think that might have been from what I heard. And I just remembered going up and asking him, and it was like I loved it about him because he almost seemed surprised that anybody recognized him.
Yeah, yeah, you get like that every now and then with some people from, even though he grew up, he was what 80s, 90. I know straight through the Attitude Era. I know that, he did all that stuff. But yeah, but then he was kind of just like, I think he had a shoulder injury, like in a Hell in a Cell match or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
that
broken his
ended
finger,
the
basically.
referee career. Yeah.
Yeah, that just killed everything right there. And it's a littlest thing too. It's a scary thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially those Hell in a Cells, like the bump that he took, like you could just see how that could just really bang up your shoulder.
The shoulder, yeah.
All right, now with a name of a show like I have, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question in here. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or we can. Most people tend to name one of each.
Basically, I was always, it was actually basically Dia Serrano on the rocks is kind of like one of my go-tos, on there. That's kind of where I know of like, all right, this night's going to end really bad when I start drinking that, on there. No, but give me just an old regular screwdriver, vodka,
Okay.
orange juice, whatever. Even if you want to throw a flavored vodka in there, I don't care. On it. That was kind of what they're probably my two best alcoholic drinks. I'm like, I might have a random, margarita every now and then if I'm, at a Mexican restaurant or something like that. Or even if I'm just out at a bar or whatever. You know, regular margarita every now and then. It doesn't hurt, that's for sure. But
I know one of my brother-in-law on my wife's side of things, he is actually from Mexico,
okay.
and he, let's just say, he knows, not to sound stereotypical, but damn, he sure knows how to cook some of like the authentic stuff. And like, good lord, having him mix up a margarita or something like that, oh god, you're getting a good one.
Yeah, when you can get the authentic Mexican food, that's the way to go. I'm like, enough of that, like, Taco Bell garbage, or, I'm going to Cadobo or Chipotle. I'm like, I'm not buying that overpriced stuff. I'm like, if I'm going to eat Mexican food, I'm like, I'm going to a mom and pop, Mexican restaurant. That's where I'm going.
Oh yeah, no, I learned that quick in San Diego. It's like if you are trying to find good Mexican food and you're ending up going to Taco Bell, you're not trying very hard.
Especially when you're in
Because
San Diego and you're going to a Taco Bell. It's kind of like sacrilegious.
oh god, yeah, it's totally sacrilegious down there because literally uh, from the base, literally maybe less than a mile, little hole in the wall spot that, oh my god.
Hell yeah, they're the best.
Oh man, probably the result of my big belly right now. I'm telling you, that was the start of it. Now, last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into, well, any aspect of wrestling.
Find a reputable school. That's you get these nickel and dime people that come up on like, I'll go back to I'll use this example on there. You get the when we were getting stimulus checks from when COVID still, first was going on, you know, you get these random, companies that were coming up out of nowhere. I'm like, we're basically just like doing shows. And then after like two shows, I'm like, well, they're broke. I'm like, that's what I refer to them as. I'm like, they're COVID promotions. They didn't last or anything like that. It's the same thing with schools.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's like, well, I can teach school. I'm like, you'd be surprised. I'm like, what goes into it. It's a whole. It's basically running your own promotion, just a wrestling school. It's the same. It's the same thing. That's what a lot of people don't do. I'm like, find yourself a school. I'm like, if you're on the East Coast, you know, hit up the Monster Factory or anything like that. Cheeseburger from Ring of Honor's got a school out in right outside of Philly. Catch Point's got a school inside of Philly. They just opened up a couple months ago. On there, so they're still fairly new. on there. But I'm like, they're probably the 3 best schools in the area, on
Oh
there.
yeah. And
But
then
that's the best thing to do. Please find a reputable school.
oh yeah. And it's not like back hell when you and I were growing up, where like some of these schools were like way more spaced apart.
Oh yeah. Oh, without
And
doubt.
now it's like no matter what part of the country you live in, there's within, I'd say, maybe 8 hours at the most,
Yeah.
there is a reputable school near you just about any area of the country.
Yeah. I'm like, when I was starting out, I'm like, all you really had, like, besides like CW having their own school at the one time, like all it was the Monster Factory in Paulsboro, New Jersey, on there, which is about maybe like 20-25 minutes outside of Philly on there. And then you had up in Allentown, you had the hell was it? Wild Samoans.
Oh yeah.
They had their school up there in Allentown, PA, which is about hour and a half north of Philly. Out there. Those were the schools that was really out. And like this is what 2000. I started around like 2007, give or take, and that's really all you really had on there. After that, I'm like, I know, Jakar, had they had the Wrestle Factory, and like CGW had the school, you know, Ring of Honor had their school, and stuff like that. So it was getting, literally what like the Jersey Indies are, it was getting saturated, which is like wrestling schools too.
Yeah, and wrestling schools, like especially out in California, where I was stationed, they got a handful of reputable ones out there. I
Yeah,
know Santino Brothers jumps
yeah.
off to me right away.
Oh, without
Uh,
doubt.
you want to, my friends over at SoCal Pro Wrestling, they got their school that's right in the same area. I know Midwest here, we got, I know Sammy Callahan, him and some people were doing one in Ohio,
Okay.
and one trying to remember. Oh, don't know why this almost slipped my mind. Black and Brave Academy in Iowa.
Oh yeah, geez, yeah, right. No, Davenport probably won. On there,
Yep.
yeah. You can't forget that one of all places.
Oh yeah. Hell, I've even had the Brave and Black and Brave Academy on.
Oh wow, okay, nice, nice.
That was fun.
Oh, I think he came through CCW one time. I know like Shane Hollister did one time. He came through CCW for a little bit too on top of that. On there, like just like Scarlett came through too on top of that.
Oh,
I was just here on TV, so
all right. Well, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you and where you're going to be and the places that you're going to be promoting that, where can
basically
they find?
any social media is just Facebook and Twitter. You can both, it's at Ref Nick Papa G on there. Facebook.com/Nick Papa G. Ref Nick Papa G on there. They're the two ones. Like I'm not on Instagram or any of that stuff. Just stuff gets hacked too much, on there. But on their schedule wise, like there's an email on there. As far as like booking information, or shoot me on Messenger, DM on Twitter/X, whatever. I answer them frequently, so because those apps stay open, 24/7, so have access to it on there. But schedule wise, I'm like, we just got done through Mania week on there, thank God, so I can actually rest up for a little bit, on there. We actually don't have a show until April 27th, actually, which is actually H2O's next show on there. Actually, that's a lie. I got a show on April 13th. Chondo is actually running his one and
Oh,
only show on there.
yeah,
For some reason, it's not on
off
that.
the
I
door.
didn't change my calendar. It's actually showing me in March on there.
Uh,
Of course, there's nothing on the 13th, but yeah,
yeah,
April
Chondo
13th
show
actually.
off the door.
Yeah, exactly. Off the door, he's got Stretch versus John Wayne Murdoch on that show. He's got a lot of other stuff up his sleeve too. I'm like, it's going to be his one and
Oh,
only show. It's going to fly under the radar. I know that, but it actually I think is streaming live on IWTV
Yeah,
on our
I'm
8 o'clock.
definitely keeping my eye on it for sure.
On our 8 o'clock that night, and then obviously the other one, April 27th. It still returns to IWTV on there. It's Killdozer versus Anthrax in a 200 light tube death match as the main event.
That is going to be insane.
Yeah, it's my crutch. I hate 200 light tube death matches. They suck.
Yeah, I've been to a deathmatch show where, let's just say, I was thankful I was wearing closed-toed shoes because the metal connector end flew off and hit me in the foot.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's all you need. They're those things are the worst to get rid of too on top of that. So
Yeah,
they
but
suck.
luckily, closed-toed shoes, so I didn't have to worry about it.
No, that's why I wear steel toes in there when I'm doing those matches. So
Oh, I get
there's your
smart.
little Easter egg on there. I'm like, yeah, I got steel toe shoes on during that.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Well, that is about all I have. Probably need to try to save my voice a little because I got some stuff going this weekend. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It's been a pleasure. I know I like to say, if you feel inclined to put in a good word anywhere with anybody, please do. I don't know how many more people that are in H2O that I haven't talked to yet.
Boss man.
Hmm?
Killdozer?
Oh,
Did you go
I
down that road already?
have him on so damn bad.
Yeah, well, I'll put a word in for him one way or the other. As long as I can. As long as he actually listens to me. So if I can get the match stream on out of him, that would be good.
Oh man,
that's the hard part.
That is one last little comment. That right there, as far as my deathmatch Mount Rushmore, after I would get him, there is literally only one person left that I haven't had on. And that one is probably going to be pretty damn hard.
Uh-oh.
Nick Gage.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a rough one to get a hold of.
But hey, if I could get Tremont, then I'm like, all right, I'm happy.
I'll influence him somehow, one way or the other.
Yeah, all right. Well, like I said, that is about all I have. Thank you again. And, best of luck out there with, Chondo show and that show on the 27th and, everything else you got going on.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mel.